Okay, here's the last section that we're going to do. It's communicating about relationships, and we're going to start with a little bit of a review that we've touched on in a couple of other chapters. It has to do with the fact that every time we send a message, there is the content, what we're talking about, and the relational aspect of the message, which is how we feel about the person we're talking to. So the book gives an example, which we've often tried to do in class with somewhat humorous results. If you wanted to say, "Could you help me for a minute?" and you wanted to communicate to the other person that you felt a sense of superiority, how would you say it? What about helplessness or friendliness, sexual desire, irritation, or aloofness? So the idea is you are saying the same words, but the message that you're sending is slightly different, and that's a very important thing to think about when you are thinking about your relationship with other people and how you interact with people that you have an interpersonal relationship with. So think again, you're going back to those three people that you have written down. How often do you engage in meta communication, which is communication about communication? I mean, the line might maybe is, we have to talk, like where you might say to someone, I really don't like it when you make jokes about me in front of the family because I feel embarrassed. That's meta communication. You are telling them something about the way that the two of you are communicating. And they ask an interesting question. Why is meta communication considered taboo in some relationships? Now, it's not exactly something that is completely frowned on in society, but it's something that is not done. Why? And then I will leave you to think about that, especially when you look at the relationships that you wrote down and the times that you might actually say something. Okay, so now let's move on to how exactly can you maintain a relationship and how can you support that relationship? And they say a relationship is very much like a car. It has to have periodic maintenance. If you don't change the oil, it's after a while it's going to stop working. So there are 5 strategies that you might look at, and I thought it was really interesting that they said when people, they've done studies and they say that when people are communicating with friends or family, they tend to use openness and social networks. And openness would be, for example, what do they say? Things have been a little crazy for me lately. You're just being open about how you feel. And social networks would be, how are things? How are you and Sam? Hopefully good. Okay. And they say that in a romantic relationship, we use assurances more than anything else. Like, you know, I'm just texting you to see how things are going. Hope your day is going well. So I would say that right now an important thing and a very difficult thing to do is to maintain positivity, keeping the relational climate light, upbeat, and avoiding criticism. I personally I am finding this a little bit challenging right now. Possibly the easiest one right now because we're spending so much time together is sharing tasks. We don't have to do things alone. We have plenty of helpers now. Okay. So, what happens? Oops, sorry. I'm trying to look at my cheat sheet too. Social support is the page I just showed you has to do with when things are going okay. Those 5 things are actions that we normally take. But when things aren't so great, how can you give the person some kind of support? And we say social support. So one of them is emotional support. Like you have a friend who's really struggling right now, and you are texting them. I understand how you feel. I know how tough it is to be away from your family right now, and you really want to go see your grandma and you can't, and why don't you tell me a story about her? So there's emotional support. Informational support is supporting them through information, giving them information that they might need to deal with things. Okay, the CDC has a website. The World Health Organization has a website. I got to tell you, BuzzFeed has been putting up some pretty funny posts and tweets that people have done. That's what's keeping me um, relatively sane. The third one is instrumental support. It has nothing to do with instruments. It's not like buying someone a tuba. It is doing someone a task or a favor. This would be challenging possibly right now if the person that you're trying to support is not near you. But see what you can do. Okay. All right. What happens if you or the other person that's in the relationship with you has done something? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back. I wanted to tell you that on page 282 there is a great 14 question assessment where you're going to think about a person with whom you have a relationship, and you're going to assess the relationship, and then you go to 289 at the end of the chapter, and it will tell you how the two of you are doing on the topic of relational maintenance. Okay, now let us say that you have done something that was not so good, or the other person has done something that's not so good, that you have violated the terms of the relationship. Whether it's something that you have explicitly said, when we are in public, you are not to call me, I don't know, can't even think of a nickname, or implicit, that it's just, you don't even have to say it. You should understand what's going down, and you have somehow let that person down. Okay, so what are the different kinds of transgressions that could happen? Could be something minor. Um, a person who shows up late. You know that we have to be somewhere on time and you're late. That drives me nuts. Maybe for me that would be a little more significant, but for other people that be um, minor. Maybe significant would be if you're not 5 minutes late, you're an hour late. Or if you're not just late once, but you're late every single time. Okay. We also have social transgressions versus relational transgression. So if your transgression violates a social rule, um, and they give a good example in the book, we just know that in our society, you don't make fun of. Well, okay, in many societies, you don't humiliate a friend in public. You might tease them a little, okay, but you don't humiliate them. So some of the rules are relational rules. In my family, we always have the rule that when we leave, when we go on a trip that's longer than 45 minutes, when we go on vacation, it's a 5-hour trip, and when we get there, we would always call my parents to let them know that we arrived safely. That's a relational rule, and I used to break that unintentionally all the time because I'd get busy. Okay. Then we have, did the person do this deliberately, or was it like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I didn't even realize what I was doing? It's unintentional. And the other one is um, is it a one-time transgression, or is this something that's been done um, a little bit over time? So like a one-time transgression could be uh, oh, you're upset with someone, and instead of staying to talk about it, you slam the door and you leave. And an incremental transgression would be when you have an argument, you just maybe you're less vocal, and the next time you're a little bit less vocal, and the next time you're a little bit less vocal. So okay, I think we've got it. These are the different kinds of transgressions. Think about those three people. Have they done any of these in your relationship? Have you committed these transgressions against them? Okay, so what if you have done something and you want to this is an important relationship for you, and you want to repair the relationship? There are things that you need to do. We are not mind readers, so what you have to do is actually talk about the violation. And I would say be very careful about when and where. Don't do it when other people are around. Don't do it when the person has just something terrible has happened to them, or they're really tired, or they're in a great mood and you decide you're going to burst their bubble. So pick a very good time to talk about the violation. Ask questions. Like, how did you feel when we were at your parents and I said that? And then the hardest thing is to listen non defensively to the answer. You are listening to get information. You are not listening to defend yourself. Okay. And then you need to apologize. The 3 steps. Explicit admission that you were wrong. I'm sorry that I told everyone at the party that your nickname in elementary school was Fatso. Express genuine regret. I am really sorry that I did this. Compensation, I promise I'll never do it again. What can I do to make it up to you? Okay. And when you are doing this, don't be on your phone. Uh, don't be watching TV over your shoulder. Don't Your nonverbal behavior has to match the words that you're using. For a lot of us, apologizing is not easy. We kind of wish it would go away, but I will tell you, it tends to get easier the more you do it. It's just you get practiced at it. And what might help is if you realize that everyone's going to mess up sometimes. That other person is not perfect, so that it's okay for you to mess up from time to time also. Well, what if you're not the person who made the mistake? What if it's the other person? For many of us, forgiveness is not a state that comes easily, but there are many studies that have been done that say that there are great benefits. I love this. On a personal level, forgiveness has been shown to reduce emotional distress and aggression and improve cardiovascular function. Okay, so it's good for your health if you can forgive somebody. I'm trying to think who said it. Something like, I'm going to roughly paraphrase this: holding a grudge is like, what is it? Holding um, a burning coal, like from a fire, in your hand, and thinking that the other person is going to be is going to get burned. Right? When you're holding on to this anger, you're the one that's suffering. Okay. Also, they have found, which I think is really interesting, that research shows that a transgressor who has been forgiven is usually less likely to repeat their offense. Okay. Now, you have to decide. If you forgive someone and they do the same thing, and you forgive them and they do the same thing, and you forgive them, at what point do you say enough is enough? You're going to do your social rewards thing, your cost benefit analysis. But if you find that it is difficult to forgive someone, it's good to recall a time that you have needed someone to forgive you and they have forgiven you. Okay, so this is the end of chapter 9. Hope it has been interesting for you.